Good morning. Welcome you all today as we come together for services for Richard Hayward Sanderson. And we'll begin with Joel sharing some memories.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As Pastor said, my name is Joel, and I'm the third child of Dick and Jenny's 5 children. My siblings and I compiled some thoughts and memories about my dad that I'd like to share with you today. First, thank you all for being here. It means a lot to my mom and my family. I want to especially thank Pastor for his support these past couple of weeks. He's been so gracious with his time, visiting Dad several times at the hospital and the nursing home, and being with him on Monday when Dad passed. He was also so helpful with the preparations for this service. So thank you very much, Pastor. And thank you, Carol, as well, for your accompaniment at the service today. My dad was born in 1934, the third of 3 brothers. He was a country boy at heart, growing up in very rural Wayland, Massachusetts in the 1930s and 40s. From an early age, he liked to draw and sketch. He liked to be outdoors and was always a close observer of nature. He could name trees and constellations. He could identify birds and bird calls. We remember him sitting in a lawn chair in the yard at the old house in Peterborough with his binoculars in hand, waiting and watching for something interesting to land on a branch of the nearby elm tree. For a few years in the summertime when we were young, he would occasionally take us out for a walk very early on a Saturday morning, just before sunrise, when the birds were just waking up, when the streets were empty and everything was quiet and peaceful. It was magical to have the world all to ourselves. He rotated children, and we each had our turns, special alone time with Dad. Early on in his working career, Dad made the decision to work independently as a self-employed graphic artist. He worked from home long before working from home was a thing, and created a studio in the attic of our house in Wakefield. With a studio on the top floor of our house, he could work in peace, undisturbed by the chaos caused by 5 very active children on the floors below. He worked hard to make his living. Being able to make his own hours meant working more hours, not fewer. Dad would come down for coffee breaks and lunch and dinner, and when work was busy, he would head back upstairs after dinner and work a couple more hours before calling it a night. But he always found ways to be involved in our lives, and he was always just a couple of staircases away when we wanted to see him. We often describe my dad as a true Renaissance man because he was so well-rounded. He was an artist and graduated from the Rhode Island School of Design. Later in life, he created wonderful oil paintings, and us children are all fortunate to have one of his works in our homes right now. There are a few of them on display on the left wall here, paintings that my dad did. He loved sports. He pitched for his high school baseball team and loved talking about baseball and pitching in particular. He spent countless hours in the backyard playing catch with us, and sometimes we would go over to the playground and he would shag long fly balls that he'd hit. I remember being amazed at how far he could hit a baseball. My dad also played the piano. We had a piano in the home growing up, and we remember listening to him practicing pieces he liked, especially Ode to Joy. This will sound like a scene from a Hallmark movie, but we actually all gathered around my father at the piano at Christmas time and sang Christmas carols as a family. Later in life, he played for services right here at Good Shepherd Church. Like my mom, Dad was an avid reader and a bit of a scholar in all subjects, as he tended to read works of nonfiction, especially historical books. Our home was filled with magazines and books, and he shared this love of reading with the kids. My sisters remember him reading to them the poems of A.A. Milne and Winnie the Pooh stories. One tradition that went on for years was Dad's annual reading of A Christmas Carol at the holidays. Dickens's short book has 4 staves, or chapters, and a final 5th stave when Scrooge wakes up on Christmas morning. Starting 4 weeks before Christmas, my dad would read aloud 1 chapter a week, and he would save the final chapter for Christmas Day. We would gather together in the living room after church on those Sundays and listen quietly knowing what was coming next, but enjoying it nonetheless. Dad had distinct voices for all the characters, and to this day we could all hear his voice whenever we read it or see a quote in the book. My dad was also a decent woodworker and had a rough shop in the basement. He built some of the furniture in our home. When my sisters took an interest in gymnastics, he put up a balance beam out in the yard and attached it to the back of the garage. He also helped build this very building we're in now, volunteering with a team of construction workers from the Lutheran Church. As mentioned, my dad loved history and was a member of the Peterborough Historical Society for many years. He researched, illustrated, and wrote a book about the early roads of Peterborough that was published by the Society. There are copies of the book at the back. Over the years, he also extensively researched the family's genealogy. Before the internet, this meant making many trips to cemeteries, historical societies, and town halls in search of records. But he would tell you that above all, he was a Christian, and that was his main focus in life. He and Mom attended many different churches and denominations over the years, all of which they enjoyed, but they found a true home here at Good Shepherd. There was a silly side to my dad that we got to see in the home, and those stories bring back some of the warmest memories. We all grew up watching Sesame Street on TV, and one of the lesser-known characters on the program was Big Bird's friend, Mr. Snuffleupagus. He was a big dinosaur/elephant-looking thing that only Big Bird would see. Sometimes, to the great delight of my sisters, Mr. Snuffleupagus, in the form of my father, he would surprise them in the evening with a knock at our living room door, and he'd come in and romp around the living room and give my sisters rides before saying goodnight and lumbering off. In our home, unless you had special permission to eat some daddy crackers, they were off limits to the children. You probably know them as Wheat Thins, but in our house they were daddy crackers. My mother would come home from grocery shopping and unload the bags in the kitchen, and we children would always have an eye out for the good stuff. As a result, the crackers were often quickly gone. One day my dad came down from work only to find his beloved box of Wheat Thins already empty. My mother put her foot down after that and started calling them daddy crackers and told us to stay away from them. The name stuck, and to this day we've called them daddy crackers ever since. Growing up, we had a house on Old Street Road in Peterborough that had been in the family since around the time of the Civil War. It was always just a summer place because it had no insulation, no electricity, and no running water. But my dad would spend summers there as a child, and he took us there for family vacations when we were growing up. One of the paintings in the back shows the old house, as we called it. The house belongs to the hospital now, but my dad put a lot of work into that old place, cutting the grass, keeping the rain out, and adding coats of paint as necessary. We loved it there with our endless games of croquet and badminton, trips to swim at Kentucky Lake, and hikes up Mount Monadnock. To wrap things up, I'll share something my brother John sent us that illustrates some of the many ways we are who we are because of my dad. Why do I love classical music and music in general? Because he loved it and had it on the radio. He also played the piano in the evenings, usually while we did other things, and the sound of him playing was the background of our evenings. Why do I love baseball and the Red Sox? Because he loved baseball and loved to talk about it, especially pitching. Why do I find birds fascinating? Because he loved birds and would stop the car just to watch a hawk in the sky. Why do I love the outdoors? Because he took us up to Mount Monadnock every year and for local hikes as well. He took us canoeing, let us build fires at the old house, stopped to throw rocks into a pond after church, and told us how his father had climbed all the 4,000 footers. Why do I love art and design? Because he would explain why something was good, why a design worked, and how to do it. Why do I love history? Because he loved it and talked about it. Why do I always try to fix things myself? Because he was never afraid to try to build something on his own. It might not be perfect, but it did the job. Why do I see things in my children, his grandchildren, that echo who he was? It's a mystery, but a wonderful legacy. Thank you.